This animation represents the human attention span under stress. Instead of resting in the present, our mental bandwidth is hijacked by involuntary time travel, ricocheting between past regrets and future anxieties, leaving the current moment entirely empty. Marco, a 24-year-old, lives in the state of constant oscillation. His mind is a textbook example of a restless, inescapable storm of racing thoughts that never seems to settle. This mental pacing takes a heavy physical toll. Marco suffers from chronic exhaustion and insomnia, finding it nearly impossible to experience joy because his brain is perpetually busy elsewhere. When the brain gets stuck in this internal loop, most people instinctively seek an external, geographical escape to solve what is actually a neurological problem. Marco decides to leave his life behind and travel to a remote village deep in the mountains. He is looking for a retired city psychologist, rumored to have mastered the art of finding quiet. The journey requires days of grueling travel across difficult terrain. Every mile he covers acts as a physical measurement of his desperation to silence the noise in his head. He eventually reaches a serene, greenery-covered house. Standing on the porch, he waits for a complex clinical solution to his psychological distress. But it remains to be seen if changing a physical location can actually overwrite a deeply ingrained pattern of overthinking. The old psychologist sits on the porch with his eyes closed. He is perfectly still, embodying the exact neurological state that Marco is searching for. Marco begs for a way to stop his relentless thoughts. He needs a way to find peace that doesn't involve this constant mental noise. The old man bypasses clinical advice entirely. Instead, he proposes a physical, experiential test to illustrate how Marco's mind actually functions. He fills a glass with water to the absolute brim. The water crowns at the edge, where the slightest movement would cause a spill. Marco is told to walk to the edge of the busy village and back without spilling a single drop of water from the glass. This exercise serves as a deliberate, high-stakes stress test of Marco's attention span, disguised as a simple chore. Marco grips the glass and begins his walk, focusing every ounce of his energy on the container in his hand. The village is full of sensory chaos. Loud dogs bark, children run through the narrow streets, and shopkeepers shout to attract customers. Marco's behavior changes instantly. His steps become slow and methodical. His gaze locks onto the meniscus of the water, ignoring the world around him. Villagers stop to watch him move slowly through the crowd. They recognize the intensity of the exercise and stay out of his way. He eventually returns to the porch and shows the old man the full glass. He has not lost a single drop. The psychologist asks what Marco noticed about the barking dogs or the children. Marco admits he saw and heard nothing at all. His world had narrowed down to the rim of the glass. The old man explains that Marco's brain ignored the chaos because his focus on the present task was absolute. There was simply no room for anything else. When an immediate physical task occupies your attention, the brain's capacity maxes out. At full capacity, the brain lacks processing power to generate past regrets or future anxieties. Those thoughts bounce off the occupied space because there is nowhere for them to land. This state of total present moment occupation is the peace Marco had been traveling to find. Defeating overthinking requires starving bots of mental space rather than trying to fight them head-on. Looking at the glass, Marco sees that peace depends on the internal mechanics of focus, rather than the quiet of his surroundings. As he walks home under the setting sun, he is no longer a victim of his own racing thoughts. He now knows how to anchor his mind. Real mental peace comes from anchoring attention so deeply in the now that anxiety simply has nowhere to live.